This week on Vatican Connections, is Pope Francis getting ready for a trip to Asia? The week of prayer for Christian unity brings hope for Catholic-Anglican relations, and the Holy See makes its bid for peace at the Geneva II Conference. Hello and welcome to another edition of Vatican Connections. Pope Francis may travel to Asia this August. The Vatican spokesperson, Father Federico Lombardi, confirmed this week that the possibility of a trip to South Korea is currently being studied by the Holy See. However, it is too early to say if the trip will happen or even when. One possibility being explored is a trip to coincide with the Asian Youth Day. The Pope has also received invitations to Sri Lanka and the Philippines, and those are also being studied. Two major international meetings were the focus of the world's attention this week: the meeting of the World Economic Forum at Davos, Switzerland, and the Geneva II Peace Conference at the United Nations headquarters. Pope Francis was invited to address the World Economic Forum. Now, he wrote a message which was read to the members by Cardinal Peter Turkson. The forum itself tweeted Pope Francis's line, "I ask you to ensure humanity is served by wealth and not ruled by it." Reaction from others was mixed. An opinion piece in The Guardian called it a lefty message, while Al Jazeera American said it was less condemnatory than the economic statement in his apostolic exhortation. However, the idea of better distribution of wealth of new growth seems to be a key issue at Davos. The Holy See also made a presentation at the Geneva II Peace Conference. Now, this conference is backed by the United Nations, and Secretary General Ban Ki-moon himself is acting as the moderator in hopes to bring peace to Syria. Archbishop Silvano Tomasi is the Holy See representative to the United Nations, and he told conference participants that through a series of meetings with church officials in the region, the Vatican has identified several areas that need to be addressed if there is hope of peace in Syria. First and most importantly, he said, there needs to be a ceasefire immediately. Second, humanitarian aid needs to be allowed in. Thirdly, along with the negotiation, reconstruction of Syria needs to begin, and the international community must help in that rebuilding process. He also said faith communities in Syria need to arrive at a better understanding of each other and work together. And finally, the international powers need to help with an ongoing dialogue process. Archbishop Tomasi said if peace can be reached in Syria, it could be the catalyst for peace in other neighboring countries. Turning to the Vatican's finances, the Institute for Works of Religion, commonly known as the Vatican Bank, released a statement detailing some of the technical aspects of their move towards compliance with international anti-money laundering norms. Now, some of the steps taken include better training of staff, updating their anti-money laundering handbook, gathering more thorough data from clients, and a forensic review of current clients. The president of the bank, Ernst von Freiberg, spoke to Vatican Radio about these improvements, and he was asked specifically about the Monsignor Scarano case, the Vatican accountant who was arrested by Italian police last June and then again this week for more alleged money laundering. Here's what he had to say.
We have worked very hard to fulfill our part under the legal obligations we have and to deliver that to our authority. From what I understand from the press conference of the Procura di Salerno yesterday, the Italian authorities are very happy about the collaboration with the Vatican authorities. They view the Vatican as having the same goal, and that is to enforce the law.
Could a case like the Scarano case happen again in the year, or would there be an alarm sounding immediately?
with the systems we have in place today, we would have alarm bells ringing immediately.
According to von Freiberg, the key to making sure something like the Scarano case never happens again is getting detailed information about all account holders and putting it through careful security and risk checks. After 3 years without an embassy to the Holy See, Ireland is reopening its embassy to the Vatican. The international representation was closed in 2011. Ireland's foreign minister claimed it was a cost-saving measure, but Irish politicians believed it was an attempt to downgrade Ireland's relationship with the Vatican after it was discovered that priests who abused children were often simply moved around the country. This week, the Foreign Ministry announced Ireland is reopening its embassy to the Vatican, although it will be smaller than before. No opening date was given. Finally, a much-awaited beatification. Álvaro de Portillo, the former prelate of Opus Dei, will be beatified in Madrid this September. Opus Dei made the announcement on their website this week. De Portillo became the prelate of Opus Dei after the founder, José María Escrivá, passed away. A miracle for De Portillo's cause was approved by Pope Francis back in July. Did you know? The oldest diocese in the New World is actually Panama City. It was created in 1513 and known as the Diocese of Santa María de la Antigua. It was considered a suffragan diocese of Seville, Spain. The first bishop was the Capuchin friar Juan de Quevedo Villegas. This week, of course, is the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. Pope Francis made it the focus of his general audience and would lead an ecumenical prayer service to close off the week. Now, Vatican Radio focused this week on Anglican-Catholic relations and what 2014 might bring in that regard. Philippa Hitchens spoke to Father Tony Kerr, the head of the Desk for Anglican and Methodist Relations at the Pontifical Council for the Promotion of Christian Unity.
Archbishop Welby, now Archbishop of Canterbury, and Pope Francis both seem to be bringing a new impetus to ecumenism, to the relationship between their churches. How do you see this shaping up in 2014?
Well, it's clear that there is an extraordinary rapport between them, that they, just as Pope Benedict and Archbishop Rowan Williams had an awful lot of contact points, particularly both being academics, both being interested in similar theologians, similar areas. So Pope Francis and Archbishop Welby, the Archbishop, of course, his enthronement coming just 2 days after the inaugurational Mass of Pope Francis. And there are all sorts of connections immediately there. Both of them have a real kind of practical direction, looking towards the poor, looking towards the way finance and economy and markets work, and who gets the raw deal out of all of that. And that is something that's really precious in the heart of both of these pastors, you know, that what are we doing about the plight of people who are getting the raw end of the deal in so many ways. And Archbishop Welby, you know, he's engaged the banks, he's engaged payday loan companies, he's engaged energy companies. He's not afraid to engage the world in a really practical way. And we know that Pope Francis isn't afraid to engage the world in a really powerful way too. So lots of points of connection, I think.
The two of them are due to meet again, aren't they, later this year? What can we expect to come out of that meeting, do you think? Or can you give us any idea of preparations in the works for that meeting?
It's difficult. There are a number of things going on in the background, but that first meeting last June was very, very successful. There was a clear connection and friendship. And the Pope has certain priorities, which are clearly priorities for Archbishop Justin as well, to do with social teaching, to do with human trafficking. And there's a lot of shared ground there. So whether in the future we can work together on that, there are some things happening about how we can share resources and how we can make a shared witness to some of these areas. It's interesting as well that the Pope has talked about an ecumenism of blood, and by which he means the witness of the martyrs across the traditions. And, you know, again, Catholics and Anglicans have died together in different parts of the world and witnessed for their faith in that way. And maybe that's...
And continue to do so in some countries.
Exactly, and, you know, we're conscious of of conflicts in Africa at the moment, and people suffering there, and in the Middle East and in Syria particularly. And there is a shared concern for the plight of all people in those places, but particularly the plight of the church and Christians in those places. And that's something for both leaders that is a very significant concern.
Now, while all of this was going on, here's what Pope Francis was doing. Last Sunday, he visited Sacred Heart of Jesus Parish in Rome. It was also the World Day for Migrants, and both his Angelus address at noon and his words to the parishioners he visited focused on that theme.
Oggi ci celebra la giornata mondiale del migrante e del rifugiato. Voi siete vicini al cuore della Chiesa, perché la Chiesa è un popolo in cammino verso il regno di Dio che Gesù Cristo ha portato in mezzo a noi. Non perdete la speranza di un mondo migliore.
Ho trovato gioia qui. Io so che tanti di voi hanno motivi per non essere gioiosi, ma ho trovato gioia nei momenti dove la notte è più oscura. Voi sapete perché la notte in quel momento è più oscura? Perché è vicina l'aurora.
A casa fra voi, grazie, perché uno può andare a fare una visita e sentire tutto educato, tutto col protocollo, ma non c'è il calore. Fra voi trovate il calore dell'accoglienza, come una famiglia.
Tuesday was the feast of Saint Agnes. Now, that's not just another liturgical feast, it's also the day that the Pope blesses the lambs whose wool will be used to make the palliums for new metropolitan archbishops. Wednesday was the general audience, and instead of continuing his catechesis series on the sacraments, he focused on the line from Corinthians, "Has Christ been divided?" That's also the theme of the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity, which started last Saturday. CNS has more.
Cari fratelli e sorelle, buongiorno. Sabato scorso è iniziata la settimana di preghiera per l'unità dei cristiani. Certamente Cristo non è stato diviso, ma dobbiamo riconoscere sinceramente e con dolore che le nostre comunità continuano a vivere divisioni che sono di scandalo. La divisione fra noi cristiani sono uno scandalo. Non c'è un'altra parola. Uno scandalo. Ciascuno di voi, scriveva l'Apostolo, dice: io sono di Paolo, io invece sono di Apollo, e io sono di Cefa, e io sono di Cristo. Anche quelli che professavano Cristo come loro capo non sono applauditi da Paolo, perché usavano il nome di Cristo per separarsi dagli altri all'interno della comunità cristiana. Ma il nome di Cristo crea comunione ed unità, non divisione. Lui è venuto per fare comunione fra noi, non per dividerci.
It was Canada's turn to provide the materials for this year's Week of Prayer. Specifically, the Catholic Church in Canada developed this year's materials. On Thursday, the Pope's message for the World Day of Social Communications was released. The Pope's message is titled Communications at the Service of an Authentic Culture of Encounter, and you can read the Pope's message on our blog. Friday, Pope Francis met with French President François Hollande, and Saturday he was scheduled to lead the Vespers service to close off the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity. And here are some of the nominations and resignations that took effect this week. In France, the Bishop of Langres, Philippe Goinly, has resigned after reaching the mandatory retirement age. No word yet on his replacement. In Honduras, the Bishop of Yoro, Jean-Louis Jasson, has also resigned after reaching the mandatory retirement age. The Bishop of Barcelona, Venezuela, Cesar Ortega Herrera, has also retired. No successor has been named. And Pope Francis nominated Cardinal Antonio Cañizares Llovera to represent him at the celebrations marking the 500th anniversary of the Archdiocese of Panama.
Choosing God means patiently cultivating ecumenical and interreligious dialogue, always staying true to one's original charism, said Pope Benedict, quoting his blessed predecessor John Paul II last night during Vespers in St. Gregory on the Caelian Hill, which was attended by the Archbishop of Canterbury and Primate of the Anglican Communion, Rowan Williams. The Vespers ceremony marked the feast of St. Gregory the Great, the Pope who in 597 chose Augustine and 40 other monks from the monastery on the Caelian Hill to bring the gospel among the Angles. Benedict XVI said St. Gregory, a servant of the gospel, shows each one of us the secret of true joy and deep peace. The joy of Christianity should be shared, the Pope concluded, along with a commitment to constantly pray and work together, Catholics and Anglicans, to achieve full unity.
Full sacramental communion.
In his speech, the Archbishop of Canterbury emphasized that today the Church is called to show the same spirit of prophecy which is recognized in St. Gregory, the ability to see where the real needs are and respond to the call of God, who is manifested in the person of the needy. At the end of the celebration, Benedict XVI and Archbishop Williams lit a lamp in the chapel of St. Gregory, where a Celtic stone cross from Canterbury has been placed.
Vatican Connections is interactive. Send us your questions or comments by Facebook, Twitter, email, or post. Via email, send comments to info@saltandlighttv.org. And by post, send letters to 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, Canada. Well, that's it for Vatican Connections. You can always follow us on Twitter for daily updates. From everyone here, thanks for watching and see you next time.